Picture this. A man stands in front of his entire village. He's accused of a crime he swears he didn't commit. There's no jury, no lawyers, no evidence bags or fingerprints. Instead, someone hands him a bar of iron. A bar of iron that's been sitting in a fire until it glows orange. And they tell him to pick it up, walk 9 steps, and put it down. That's it. That's the trial. If his hand heals cleanly in 3 days, he's innocent. If it festers and rots, he's guilty. And everyone accepts the result, like it's the most obvious thing in the world. Now, your modern brain is screaming right now. That's insane. That's not justice. That's just torture with extra steps. And honestly, you're not wrong to feel that way. But here's what nobody tells you. These people weren't stupid. They weren't primitive savages randomly burning each other for fun. They ran this system for hundreds of years. And the more you actually look at how it worked, the more you realize something deeply, weirdly clever might have been going on underneath it all. So the real question isn't, how could they be so barbaric? The real question is, what if trial by fire was never really about the fire at all? Stick around, because by the end of this, you're going to see medieval justice in a way that'll genuinely mess with your head. And real quick, if you're the kind of person who loves this stuff, the weird hidden logic behind history's craziest ideas, do me one tiny favor. Hit that like button and subscribe. Seriously, it takes 2 seconds, and it tells the algorithm to show this to more curious people like you. That's it. That's all I ask. Now, let's get into it. Okay, let's start with the belief almost everyone holds. The belief goes like this. Trial by fire, and trial by water, and all the rest, was just superstitious nonsense. Ignorant people who believed God would magically protect the innocent. A cruel, random coin flip dressed up as justice. And look, on the surface, that seems obviously true. How could grabbing hot iron possibly tell you anything about whether someone stole a goat? But here's the thing that took historians a long time to untangle. If this system was truly just random, it would have collapsed almost immediately. People aren't dumb. If innocent folks were burning and guilty folks were walking free at a 50-50 rate, the whole village would have stopped trusting it in a generation. So how did it survive for centuries? That's the crack in the story. And once you pry it open, a completely different picture falls out. Here's the first big reframe. Trial by fire wasn't designed to test your skin. It was designed to test your belief. Think about the world these people lived in. Everybody, and I mean everybody, genuinely, deeply believed in God. Not casually, not, yeah, I go to church sometimes. I mean bone deep, no doubt about it belief that God was watching. God knew the truth, and God would absolutely intervene. Now imagine you're actually guilty. You stole the goat, and they tell you tomorrow you have to grab a red-hot iron bar, and God himself will decide your fate. If you truly believe God knows you're lying, you're terrified. You know you're gonna burn. So what do? You confess, or you quietly settle, or you run. But if you're innocent, you walk in calm, because you genuinely believe God's got your back. See what just happened there? The trial sorted people before the fire was ever touched. It used their own beliefs to make the guilty crack. The iron was just the pressure that squeezed the truth out. Okay, cut. So let's break this down piece by piece, the same way you'd take apart a machine to see the gears, because there was way more engineering in this than it looks. First, the priest was in control. Here's a detail that changes everything. In most of these ordeals, it wasn't a random mob running things. It was a priest. And the priest, he often knew the accused. He'd heard the gossip. He'd taken confessions. He had a pretty good read on who probably did it. And guess who prepared the iron? Who heated it? Who timed how long it sat in the flames? Yeah, the priest. Suddenly, this random trial has a very human thumb on the scale, one that could quietly nudge things toward the outcome that fit what the community already suspected. Second, the bandaging trick. After you carried the iron, they'd wrap your hand and seal it for 3 days. Then they'd unwrap it and read the wound. Was it healing clean? Innocent. Was it infected? Guilty. But here's the sneaky part. Reading a wound is subjective. What counts as healing well versus festering is a judgment call. And who's making that call? The same authority who already had an opinion about your guilt. The ambiguity wasn't a bug. It was a feature. Third, settlement was always the real goal. This is huge. In tons of cases, the ordeal never even happened. The mere threat of it pushed people to settle their disputes, pay compensation, or confess. The trial was the nuclear option. And just like real nuclear weapons, most of its power came from everyone being scared enough to never actually use it. Now, here's where it gets genuinely brilliant. And this is the part that flips the whole thing on its head. Economists and historians have studied this, and there's a real argument that ordeals worked as a kind of lie detector. Not a magic one, a psychological one. Think about it. The system only works if the guilty believe they'll be caught and the innocent believe they'll be saved. When both groups act on those beliefs, the guilty back out and the innocent step forward. The trial basically tricks people into revealing what's in their own heads. And the priest, knowing all this, could adjust. Cooler iron for someone he believed innocent. A little more heat for someone he was sure was lying. A generous reading of the wound for the trusted neighbor. Every part of the ritual had wiggle room, and that wiggle room let the outcome match the truth, far more often than pure chance ever could. It wasn't justice by fire. It was justice by fear, faith, and a very well-informed middleman. And here's what really seals it. This wasn't one weird village doing one weird thing. Trial by ordeal shows up all over the world. Hot iron in Europe, boiling water where you'd pull a stone from a scalding pot, chewing dry rice in parts of Asia, where a guilty person's nervous, dry mouth made it impossible to swallow. Different cultures, same underlying trick. That's not a coincidence. That's humans, again and again, stumbling onto the same solution to the same impossible problem. How do you find the truth when you have zero forensic tools? No cameras, no DNA, no science. So they built a machine out of the one thing everyone shared: belief. And it was clever enough that people all over the planet independently invented their own version of it. Okay, cut. Okay, now I need to slow all the way down. Because the wrong takeaway here is dangerous, and I'm not going to let you walk away with it. None of this means trial by fire was good. It wasn't. People absolutely got burned. Innocent people absolutely suffered. Somebody with a high pain tolerance and a lot of nerve could game the system. And a corrupt priest could just as easily use that same wiggle room to punish an enemy or protect a friend. The flaws were real. And they were brutal. And let's not pretend the medieval world was some clever utopia of hidden genius. Life was harsh. Justice was often cruel. Plenty of people died over accusations that were flat out wrong. The point isn't, wow, they had it all figured out. The point is narrower and honestly more interesting than that. It's that what looks like pure madness from the outside often has a hidden logic once you understand the world it lived in. These people weren't crazy. They were solving a real problem with the only tools they had. And their solution was way more sophisticated than God will protect the innocent. So step back and look at the whole thing. A trial that sorted the guilty from the innocent before the fire was touched. A ritual that used fear and faith as a lie detector. A priest quietly steering outcomes toward the truth. A threat so scary that most disputes got settled without anyone getting hurt at all. That's not superstition. That's a justice system. A strange, flawed, oddly ingenious one, built by people who understood human nature better than we give them credit for. And here's the thing worth carrying around. We love to look at the past and call it stupid, backward, barbaric. But every single one of those insane old systems was built by people exactly as smart as us, just working with completely different tools and completely different beliefs. They weren't dumb. They were us, dropped into a world with no science, no forensics, and no choice but to get creative. So, did ancient humans really decide guilt through trials by fire? The honest answer, once you actually look at how it worked, is kind of, but not the way you think. The fire was the theater, the belief was the machine. And the strangest part? 1,000 years from now, someone's going to look back at our justice system, our courts, our juries, our own strange rituals, and think we were the barbaric ones. We didn't invent justice by being smarter than the people before us. We inherited it from a long, messy line of humans all trying to answer the same impossible question. How do you find the truth when the truth is hiding? They reached for fire. We reached for science. But the question never changed. And that's the part that should stick with you. Because underneath all of it, the iron, the water, the fear, was just people. People trying to be fair in a world that made it almost impossible. Turns out, that's a struggle we never really left behind. Okay, cut.